20 years ago. Welcome back, everyone. It's Monday. Is this Cyber continuation of Cyber Monday?
This is Cyber Monday.
Cyber Bullshit Monday. We have one retail job and two wholesale jobs. Phones are quiet. I don't think it's going to be a busy day. But good news is my motor's back. Yeah, great weapon right there. So, was it 20 years ago? Let me think about this. 20? No, it's actually longer than that. About 30 years ago, when I first started shopping for homes. Was it 30 years ago?
You're old.
Trying to think. No. So before Val and I bought,
All right,
20 years ago. Yeah, about 20 years ago, before we purchased our home in Pennsauken. Dude, it was the top of the market. I forget when it was 20 years ago. 2008?
20 years ago was 05.
Somewhere in that area. Top of the real estate market. We had to move out of Philly because that's what she wanted. And I was like, what the frick? My property taxes were like $480 a year in Mayfair, Northeast Philly. My house was $45,000. They were selling for $150 on average for an Airlight in Northeast Philly. So I'm like, all right, she's pregnant with Anthony. And I'm like, all right, she doesn't want to raise my son in the city, blah, 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 all the bullshit. I'm like, if we stay here, I could buy the house next to us, and I could buy the house next to us. And you can I'll knock the walls down, you can have a big house. I don't want to live in the city, I don't want to live in the city, I don't want to live in the city. So here you go, make compromises, young. We weren't even married yet. And I said, all right. And at that time, I had a day off when I worked for Meineke on Frankfurt Ave. But my bonus program was so strong that even on my day off, I went to work. And she was like, why do you do that? I said, because my paychecks reflect that. Like, I don't want another manager, because we had two managers, controlling my destiny, right? So I said, me being there another day just added to it. And I could almost spit at the shop. That's how close I was. I could walk to work every day. So it wasn't a big deal. And she had a job at that point in time too, and she worked in debt collection, so she was still going to work. But she only worked at 40, or whatever that was. So I was like, all right, we're looking at houses. So we're in the Sicklerville area, trying to be closer to my brother. And I was like, all right, we're looking at under $300,000. And I remember at that time she worked, I worked, so we could do it, right? I wasn't thrilled about it. And we could probably still have a new car. But at that time, I had a leased Mercedes. She had a used Honda or some shit like that. I was like, we could do it. Plus, take the money that we had profited from the Northeast house, buy down the payment, on a $300,000. Nor do I didn't even want to be in that round, because I just bought a $45,000 home that I've been for a couple of years, and it's quadrupled in, or whatever the numerator is there. And I think I put like $5,000 into it. Central air, new carpets, new bathroom, new kitchen. Like, I did most of the work. A lot of updates in that older home, new front door, because it was like 1950 when you walked into that house. But the moral to that story is that house was furnished from and they actually had cedar closets, which is completely cool, but I didn't want to smell the cedar. Your 50-something-year-old cedar still smelled good. So when it's time to sell that house, I was like, all right, we're looking at homes. After like the 15th house she's drugged me through, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, the houses we were looking at, we were going into houses that, and I'm not saying anything bad about Indians, but I don't know what happened there. And they were saying that they were on a tax abatement. So certain new construction homes gave them like a 5-year or 10-year, like I kind of missed that abatement, where they were tax-free for a certain amount of time on those homes. And I was going into those homes, there was no furniture, there was no kitchens. It was like, folding tables and stuff like that. And I was like, do these people actually live here? Like, oh yeah. I'm like, this is crazy. And this is like a newer home. This was like $300,000 new construction home. It's pretty big. And I was like, all right, we're going to think about it. Show me something else. I was in hoarder homes that before even hoarders even had TV time for hoarders. And I never knew that existed. People actually lived with a narrow little path to the kitchen, to the bathroom, to the bedroom, and had animals.
We
We
know
know.
better than most.
Yeah, we had to clean one out.
So, and that, for me, I was like, holy crap.
It was like 2 years ago around this time.
I didn't know that shit existed, but legit.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know how, and they had like a little path so they could see the TV, and they were like little, I don't know, worms. They were happy. They were ready to sell their house. We didn't buy that house, but I was in more houses, not necessarily hoarders, more houses that had no furniture. They were living in there, and all they could do is make the payment. And eventually, I guess, as their balloons and their tax abatements, because they come up with a creative way to get you to buy a house, right? In economic times. Hence the 50-year mortgage is coming. Hence you can have a 10-year car loan now. Car's not going to be worth shit in 10 years. Especially if you don't take care of it. And I was just so blown away by that whole experience that I was disgusted. And I didn't really want to reach for new construction, and there was no incentives back then. And I just said, okay, I really want to be close to the shop because we were in the midst of buying this location at the same time.
Okay.
And it kind of all fell together in perfect timing. I said, that's why good planning happens. Like the house in Philly was at the top of its market. It was huge profits left in that. The New Jersey real estate market was at its peak also, which I didn't want to buy, but we were stuck. It was like that or go into like an apartment for a little while. I was like, we're not doing that. I didn't even see this house. She sent me pictures on my phone and said, yeah, I put the offer in. And I was at work. And I said, okay, well, it looks great. I said, you sure this is what you want? She goes, it's what you want too. It's in Pennsauken. It's right around the corner from the shop. You know, we're just about ready to close the deal on the shop. We have a potential buyer for the Mayfair home. I was like, all right, everything's coming together good, right? So I said, okay, if that's what you want, I said, it's great. I said, sign the deal, leave a deposit, whatever it is. I'm at work this day. I said, I didn't even go and see this house. And it was furnished, like she showed me pictures of it. It was all furnished. They were living there, husband and wife. And I was like, okay, that's what you want. It works for both of us. It really didn't work for me, but you learn as you live in those neighborhoods. And then it did. She's like, it's perfect for us to raise our family. You know, it's a whole different when you're different from where you're at in life and where I was. You know, planning to get married, buying a business that had no customers and trees growing in the office and shop, like a baby on the way, a house for sale, running a very busy Meineke shop in Northeast Philly. You know, hoping that everything would work out. So I just show up to settlement at that house. I was like, hey, I need the day off. We had settlement on our Northeast home before that, or something like that. Here's another crazy story. Ready? Tell Rachel that if that lady's engine light is not back on for a thermostat rationality code, I'm not getting the thermostat. So can you just tell her that? Just text her. Tell her to call the customer. If she doesn't have the thermostat rationality code, then it was the aftermarket thermostat housing that caused the problem. The sensor in it. No sense in me wasting any more money.
Money, time, or anything.
Correct, and antifreeze. So the realtors that I was dealing with in Philly actually helped me buy that house. And we had a woman on the thing, and at that time, you could do seller's assist, and I don't even know if that is. Like, I was like, the lady, she's short on buying this deal, right? You talk about when people are reaching to buy a home that can't afford a home, but they need help. She should have never bought this home. If you needed seller's assist, you should have never bought this home. I took money out of my savings account that I made from other home purchases over the years to put down on this. And I think it was $30,000. At that point, I really didn't have much money left to my name, plus I was already engaged in this. And I didn't have much to start this place. It was like,
Stressful.
it was really a very stressful situation for me if it didn't all play out the way that I needed it to play out.
Yeah.
Like, my settlement had to go streamline, right?
Yep.
For everything to work. So here we go. We're making settlement with the buyers in for my home. It's a buyer, a woman, and I'm already giving her seller's assist of it was 150,000, and I think it was like 5,000 I could only give her or something like that. It may have been a little less, 5 or 3,000. We show up to settlement. We're all sitting at the settlement table, and the chick's just staring at the table with her realtor on the other side of the table, and the other side of the table, and they're like, does the buyer have her money? And then they're like, no, she doesn't have her money. And I'm like, I fucking lost it in there. I'm like, title agencies are getting paid, everybody's getting paid, the realtor's getting paid, the other realtor's getting paid on this deal. They're all fucking sitting at this table, and nobody knows that she doesn't have her $10,000 or whatever it was. Because 150 and 10 and my 5 would have been 10%, it's 15,000, right? I think that's pretty much what it is. I gave her seller's assistance of 5 out of the deal, and she had to come to the table with $10,000. Don't you know this motherfucker showed up with no money, and her realtor and everybody there just acted like it was a normal fucking day? And I'm sitting there looking at everybody, I'm like, so now what? You're like, well, the deal's done. I'm like, and they played it perfect, because seller's assist meant that she was really not out of any money, because she didn't leave a deposit. I think she left like 1,000, and then she was going to make the rest at settlement. Tell her again, if the engine light is not on for the thermostat, I'm not driving out there wasting my gas and time. I'll go pick it up whenever I want, but if her engine light is not on for thermostat rationality, I don't need to waste any more time or money. So she's sitting there, and I'm like, and I'm losing my shit in here. And I turn to my realtor, and I'm like, how the fuck did you let this happen? And he's like, Anthony, this is quite normal over here in the Northeast. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean it's quite normal? I said, I have a lot of things going on here that require that this settlement go smooth here today in Philadelphia, because I'm closing on my New Jersey home. I think it was either the same day or the next day, or I forget what the deal was. I think we just had to sign some paperwork. And he's like, well, here's your options. He said, we relist the property, and she walks away. I said, she walks away scot-free, right? Yep, usual suspects, we're going to say that. Or you give her the $10,000 out of your profits from your home. I'm like, I looked at Val, I said, do you fucking believe this? Do you fucking believe that all these people here are asking me to give up the $10,000 and they still get their commission? So everybody got what they needed there, and I should have just said that you're not getting your commission, you're not getting your commission, and you're paying for this lady's shortcomings, because your job is to make sure that that's why I pay you guys to do this. And I didn't know enough, and they knew that. Like, I wasn't a really experienced buyer. Now I am. But I would have said, oh yeah, well, there's a problem. That's coming out of your commission, that's coming out of your commission, because I'm not fucking losing because of your shortcomings. And they just acted like it was a normal day, Caleb. Yep, and I didn't know enough back then to realize where I should have said, you're not getting your commission, you're not getting your commission, and that's how we're going to pay her $10,000 deficit. But I didn't at that time, because I was already frustrated, I was already aggravated, and I wasn't educated enough. So I reached into my pocket, I gave this lady the $15,000 to buy my house. How about that? Does that guarantee me a path to heaven? She never even sent me a thank you letter. She walked out of there with her head down smiling. She knew 100% entire time that was how that was going to go down, because somebody else that she knew did that and got away with it. Anyway, so I think at that point in time, I walked away with like 90,000 or something like that, which was good, because I already was 45, 150, 15. It was like 90,000. I didn't owe 45 on the house at that time. I was already paying 5 years into the loan. It was almost 90,000. So we got through that disaster of bullshit, and then we move into that house. So that's how that went down. So unbelievable, the bullshit. And when I heard that they basically said this happens at settlement sometimes, I'm like, it only happened at settlement sometimes because you guys effed up. I should have knew the day before that this lady was going to burn me because she didn't have her money. Yeah. So how about that for frustrating? And then we move into the house. That everything goes well there, and then I think 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, we opened this place. So a lot went on in a short amount of time. A lot went on in a short amount of time. But I never knew, and just like cars, just like this car right here, this Mustang, you have the car, can you afford to take care of the car? Well, if I can find things wrong with it, that says something.
You know what's funny is she probably even sold it.
I think she
that.
still lives in it.
I was gonna say if she sold
Because that
it
house
after-
now is worth like
I was
$400,000,
gonna say yeah.
20 years later.
400 G's or
Yep.
something
But
insane.
she basically got into the house for free. It didn't cost her anything. Got into the house for free. Is that?
It still works like that.
I would bet you could get away with it.
It does still work like that. It's just-
Only if they allow seller's assist. And I forget what bullshit they pulled over there. But the only way that she could get her home is if I paid for it. Does that sound like the American dream over there? But never in a million years. And life's a learning lesson. That's why I say to you, if you're buying a used car, do your homework. Don't trust anyone. You can't even trust realtors sometimes. If you're buying a new car, do your homework. Can I afford the gas? Can I afford the maintenance? Right? Oh, I'm buying a Mustang, but I can only afford to put regular in it. Well, that car calls for super. You're only ruining your car. Can I afford the full synthetic oil changes at 9 or 10 quarts? Ask those questions. What type of oil? How much does an oil change cost? How much does the maintenance cost? What does the maintenance cost on an EV vehicle? Oh, there is no maintenance. That's all lies. So if you hear that there's no maintenance, that's lies. It's going to need wiper blades. It's going to need filters. It's going to need transmission fluid or differential fluid. Coolant services are not lifetime. Transmission services are not lifetime fluids. There is no lifetime. Your alignments, you don't need an alignment. There's a lot. Brakes need maintenance. So even if you buy an EV vehicle, it needs maintenance, and you need to know to be a better buyer. You need to have the experience of buying and knowing. Like, I would never believe it. People bought homes just to show their friends and neighbors that they had a home, but they had nothing inside. And yeah, they had the car payments too. If they didn't have the car payments, there was Lexus in the driveways and BMWs. They didn't have any furniture. They had towels over the towels over the windows for draperies. It's crazy. The shit that I saw. All right, guys, that's enough of a rant. Thanks for watching.